What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to yet another Tottenham update. We've got a few things to get through, a lot of quotes, a lot of interviews been going on this international break. To start off with, we're going to talk about quotes from Fabrizio Romano on Harry Kane and his new contract. We're going to see what he's saying about that. And he says, Harry Kane is happy at Tottenham and is not in a rush to leave. Tottenham would like to extend his contract, but currently there is no agreement close. Then he goes on to say that Bayern will go for an important striker in 2023. Harry Kane is highly rated at the club and is considered the perfect striker. But as of now, Bayern never had any contacts with Tottenham. From the player's side, the situation is also quiet and nothing concrete on that. So in terms of Harry Kane and his new contract and stuff like that, and in terms of the Bayern situation, I mean, I just can't really see him playing at Bayern, not until like very late in his career anyway.
Yeah, it's all talk. There's no chance he goes to the German league right now, I don't think. It doesn't make sense for him to make that move. I know Bayern are a very good club and obviously probably have a better chance of winning the Champions League than Spurs, the other clubs, but would he really feel the same just like winning the Bundesliga with a team who have won the last 10 Bundesligas than winning a trophy, either another English club or something with Spurs? I just can't. It doesn't make sense to me and also with his records that he wants to break, top goal scorer in the Premier League history and stuff like that. Putting it aside to win a trophy with Bayern doesn't make sense for Kane to do that.
Does any move now though make sense for Harry Kane? Because obviously Haaland's at City, so that ship sailed. I mean, where else can you see him going?
It's difficult. I mean, if he runs his contract down and if he does leave on a free, I think he will have. So, I think City might even still be an option. Like, he could play number 10 for City, you know what I mean, with Haaland up front, if that was ever the case. I think the boat of City spending big money on him, that's definitely gone. But if they were to get him on a free, I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility.
Imagine a Kane, Haaland and De Bruyne in the same team.
It's ridiculous. It'll be madness. Haaland won't have to move. He'll just
literally
stand in the 6-yard box and that's it.
He hardly needs to move right now.
A bit of movement now, but literally that'll be gone if Kane... Yeah, but I can't... Even that, though, it does seem unlikely. Maybe if Man United make a comeback under Ten Hag, maybe that could be a move for him. But again, I think now he's approaching 30, it's going to be very difficult for a team to spend what we're going to want for him. So he's going to have to run down his contract if he wants that big move. So hopefully we can show him some ambition in terms of what we want to do as a club. And I think it's interesting hearing him speak about... he did an interview a few days ago about this new physiotherapist he's been seeing, because I think a big part of with Kane for the past few years was always about are these injuries catching up with him? And because of these injuries, is he going to want to make that move because he feels like he can't trust his body to have that longevity potentially, because he had these constant ankle problems, didn't he? And that was really hampering him for a while. He just wasn't the same player, but we have clearly seen an uptick in performances over the last couple of years, especially since Mourinho's first full season. And he credits it to... this new guy he's been seeing for the last 3 years, physiotherapist.
So what's he said exactly?
He says he's been working together with him for the past 3 years. He says he's really great for me. He's been working for hours and hours over the last 3 years, built up a really good relationship, and I feel he's really helped me. He said I was struggling to play consistently throughout a season, especially when you come up with major tournaments. It was great to know your body's in a good place. You can get injured at any moment, whether it's a tackle or a bad moment, but I think when you're free in your mind and you've been playing consistently for a while, it definitely helps your mindset. I kept getting ankle injuries, and that led to a bigger hamstring injury. As I've gotten older and more mature, you learn more about your body, when you can push and when you cannot push too hard. That's helped me to consistently play at the level that I have. And I think we've seen that, because I think he's had more confidence in his own body. You could see that. Even though when he was going for that bad period, he was still scoring, but he wasn't the same Kane as we'd seen maybe years before that.
The Kane we're seeing now is literally beast mode Harry Kane. I mean, he's like the physicality of him now is just like miles beyond what we saw back then. And also, when you look at it, I mean, everything he's saying there is pretty much true. I mean, he hasn't had an ankle injury, for like a couple of years at least.
Yeah, and that was always a thing what people used to say about Spurs. Kane's due an injury, or when everyone's talking about how good a team we are, but Kane, he's always going to get injured a few times a season. But you know what? Last 2 seasons, and this season as well, I mean, there's only 7 games, barely any injuries, especially with the ankles. So he's really got confidence now in his ankles again, and that's really important because those ankles can be very delicate if they're not treated right. So I'm glad that he's got that sorted.
Saw that at Gareth Bale as well, didn't we?
Yeah, and so that's why we're seeing the Kane that we're seeing now, and I think lots to do with this new person, this new physiotherapist.
Yeah, and it's great to hear it from the horse's mouth as well, and Harry Kane, and how much it is helping him. So big up to the physiotherapist, because it's something that we all worried about for many years with Harry Kane and how he got injured. I mean, he was injured in that run up to the Champions League final. Who was pretty much then, since he joined us, he's had one big injury every season up until these last couple of years. So it's great stuff. And in terms of what you're saying about longevity as well, it can only help him. So
massively, yeah, 100%.
Let's move on, and we've got some more quotes here. The next up is from Dejan Kulusevski. He's talking about how Conte changed his world, how Conte rocked his world. I love hearing it, but let's get into the quotes.
Yeah, so here's some quotes from Kulusevski talking about his time at Juve and what's changed at Spurs. He says, "I don't know, in football things can sometimes be simply bad. I have not changed anything about myself in recent months. Mentally, I went and I always go to the pitch to give my best. At Juventus, however, it didn't go beyond what I tried to do. I'm a guy who likes to look forward rather than backwards. Certainly at Juventus, I didn't feel great for many different reasons. And when you realise that things are not going well, then it's difficult to reverse the course remaining in the same environment. So the choice to leave Italy was the best I could have I could have made the situation. In England, I feel great. Everything is better than in Turin, both on and off the pitch. Now, as I said, I always want to play football and win for my team." Asked about if his fitness has improved and how that's changed, he said, "What you have to do and what the Conte preparation, he says, it's what you have to do to become a champion. His work was important. At Tottenham, my body has changed, mainly thanks to exercise in the gym. In no time, we work a lot every day, and better than I did in Italy. I love how we train in London, and for sure the credit has to go to our coach. I'm very happy to play for him." And when asked about the differences between if there's any differences between Allegri and Conte, he said, "Honestly, yes. I don't want to say one is better than the other because I have great respect for both Allegri and Conte, and both have won a lot in their careers, but the work and the idea of football are completely different. At Tottenham, as I've already said, you struggle a lot more in the gym and you can see the results. I can say that from Juventus to Spurs, my world has changed. And one thing must be said about Conte: I've never met anyone in my life, even outside of football, as motivated a person as Conte. And then one like this, when he speaks, when he speaks to you, he enters your heart by force."
And you know what? I'm just loving all these quotes. I mean, it's not just Kulusevski as well. It's like, you saw it from Deki the other day. You hear it from Harry Kane quite oftenly. I mean, you hear it from a lot of the Spurs players about how good of a manager actually Conte is, and how he can get into your head and all that stuff and makes you a winner, and he's a purebred winner. I mean, it's going to be a very sad day when Conte does eventually leave this football club. Hopefully it's many years down the line, but just to hear it from Kulusevski, Deki earlier on in the international break, I mean, it just brings a smile to my face. It really does, because finally we've got a manager where everyone seems to be singing from the same hymn sheet. Every single player in the squad seems to be pulling in the same direction. It's just great to hear.
Yeah, and he's clearly got amazing man management ability. Everyone seems to absolutely love him. He doesn't seem to have a bad relationship with any player really right now on the first team squad, and everyone has that full belief in him. And you're talking about a player like Kulusevski who's come from a massive club in Italy like Juventus, but he feels more at home here, and he feels like the way we do things is a lot more in line with how he wants it done, and that's amazing to hear from a player playing at one of the super clubs really around Europe. So I'm delighted, and clearly Kulusevski's loving life under Conte.
Changed his world, mate. Changed his world. But let's move on. Let's talk about some other quotes now. This time from Richarlison out in Brazil duty. He's talking about how he rejected Chelsea and Arsenal to move to Tottenham. So let's see what he was saying on that.
Yeah, so he's going through the what happened. He says, I was on holiday in Brazil when I heard that Tottenham made Everton an offer. I was happy because they're a huge team and that it was all about the clubs negotiating a deal. And fortunately, everything went well. Conte called me during the negotiations and expressed how much he would like to have me on board, and that was vital for my decision. He also added that I know Chelsea made an offer, and I believe Arsenal also contacted Everton to ask about my situation, but Spurs came in and paid the fee, and it's as simple as that. Everton had to sell some players. Oh no, I think that's not part of the quote. No, it is, but Everton had to sell some players to avoid financial fair play problems, and the negotiations were very brief, to be honest. I signed the contract during my holiday in Pantanal. So very interesting to hear that. Clearly we jumped ahead because we just simply gave them the money. Clearly there was probably negotiations going on for a long time, but I think once we heard Chelsea and Arsenal probably sniffing around, it was the right thing to do, just make sure you got the player, and I'm glad we did, because he's been a very good signing so far. But
it could have very easily been a Willian situation.
Yeah, very easily if we didn't stump up the cash. I think if we probably negotiated for a bit longer.
But with the Willian situation, we did stump up the cash, but he left us at the training ground, didn't he? I mean, that was a case that could have happened again with Chelsea coming in the last hour.
Very true, very true. But thankfully we got it over the line. You never know with Spurs, whether until the guy's signing up the shirt. But
you don't really associate Spurs with like jumping the gun and getting ahead of your rivals like this. We usually kind of take the last pickings, and if we get into a bidding war or anything like that, we're usually the first to fold, aren't we?
100%. So it's great to hear that this is one of very rare occurrences where there was a fee and Levy to get the player and he just
Big
paid
fee
it
as well.
I think honestly, maybe it was even a case where we heard Chelsea and Arsenal were sniffing. We just thought, well, stump the cash up now because we need to get him through the door. I think a few years ago, or even if there's a case where if our Chelsea and Arsenal weren't sniffing around, we probably hold on for a bit longer, don't we? And just and
make Everton sweat a little bit.
Yeah, and probably a few years ago, we probably even don't do the deal because we want the deal on our terms.
Absolutely.
But I think that was one of the indications of a change in policy, although we didn't obviously get everything we wanted this window in the end. But that deal was definitely a deal that we wouldn't have done in the past, and that's evidence of that.
How do you feel about the kind of way Spurs are doing their business at the moment? Because a deal like that does signal that the mentality is changing a little bit at least, but it hasn't changed maybe full circle the way we wanted it to, seeing as we didn't get all our targets in and maybe all of us giving it a 6 out of 10 or whatever in the window. I mean, how do you read the situation? How much are Spurs maybe kind of trying to morph into that big club?
Yeah, I still think we've got ways to go, I think, in my opinion, because as much as we did do really good stuff early in the window, I think we still left too many gaping holes in the squad that need addressing, and I think we could have done a lot better when addressing those situations, and we had a lot of time to do it as well. So that's frustrating. I was very happy with the business we did do, and I think we did it in a very good manner and very early on. I think Conte would have been happy with that, but I still think we left ourselves too short, and I think most clubs, a lot of big clubs in general, they try to avoid these situations. And I guess it's always very difficult when you're comparing yourselves to Man City, because they're obviously the biggest club in England right now in terms of ability and playing squad and stuff like that. And they're just an absolute super club with no limits on budget or anything, and they can do what they want pretty much. And so you're always trying to compare yourselves to them if you ever want to achieve something massive like win the league, and they're just impossible to compare yourselves to. So when talking about comparing yourselves to a big club, that always comes up, and we can't compete with that. I don't think. We have to do things in a different way. But when you're comparing yourselves to other, Liverpool left themselves a bit short this season as well. You know what I mean? Like you argue a lot of big clubs did. So we weren't the only team that left ourselves short. in some areas. But when you compare yourselves to City, that's how it compares. And we always look. It always compares a bit unfavourably. But I am happy in general with the direction of the club. I think the window could have been better, but I'm still fairly content with the business we did do, and hopefully we continue to do the early business that we did this window.
All right. Yeah. Look, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's hard to disagree, but you know, when you're looking at teams that we're trying to compete with a Man City, I know we're never going to be able to compete with them, but and it's a frustrating source, isn't it? But when you're looking at teams that maybe we are competing with right now, with, you know, even Arsenal and Chelsea are doing a lot more than us in the window. Maybe
Are
not
they?
Arsenal, but Chelsea.
I mean, they're spending more money in terms of actual players brought in. They signed 4 players?
Who, Chelsea?
Fofana,
Aubameyang, Sterling,
and
Aubameyang, and there was more, wasn't there? Cucurella,
Zakaria on loan.
Zakaria.
So we signed 6 players, didn't we?
We did sign 6 players, but like the 5 players that they signed all come in and fight for the first team straight away. I mean, you're looking at Fraser Forster was one of our signings. Jed Spence was one of our signings, who is not getting a look in at the moment. And you're looking at, the other players that we've signed.
Yeah, but they also had a lot more to do because of players going and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's true. Look, I agree with you. It's just that I would just like to see us push the boat out just a bit more.
So would I.
Anyway, let's move on and let's talk about some more quotes, this time from Eric Dier. And he's talking about fan abuse and how much he doesn't want his family to come to away games.
Yeah, he was asked about if fan abuse in England is getting worse. He said, it definitely has got worse. For me, it's a serious problem. I had my family and friends at the Chelsea away game against Spurs back in August, and they had problems on the away end. It wasn't nice ones either. It was a huge problem. I don't know if he means it was problem with the Chelsea fans or the Spurs fans. I'm not sure what he means, but he said they had problems. My family would never go to an away game nowadays because of it, and that's a shame, and I feel uncomfortable for them to go to away games. This has been going on for years. My mum has not been to an away game. She would love to, but I would be worried, and I'm worried about it, and that's crazy, isn't it? All of the players' families go through it. Every player's parents have been watching them since they were kids and have gone through that kind of stuff. But I'm not over dramatic about it. I don't think anybody should be. It really is not a big deal for me. And then asked about the situation where he got obviously fined and got a ban when he went into the crowd against Norwich. He said, I've never spoken about the situation in the press before because, to be honest, I wasn't at all happy with the way it was handled. I don't know what I can say about it because I don't know if I'll get banned or fined again or whatever. It wasn't too dramatic like people make it out to be, but yeah, I don't regret it at all, and I'll do it again. For my family, my teammates, anyone, a friend of mine, I consider myself to be extremely loyal. Then asked about, and then Dier also made it clear that the abuse that often comes from fans, and to both teams, it said it's verbal, not physical, but like very bad stuff. One incident was in the Tottenham away end. I'm saying is football fans in general. I want to emphasise it was both sets of fans. I'm not saying it's Chelsea fans or Tottenham fans. It's football fans in general. So that's Dier talking about fan abuse, and that's something that I think we've both noticed recently in terms of, I'm not sure about abuse, but more about fans
Violence.
And violence as well, but like not discontent, but like kind of fans getting a bit belligerent kind of games, and like you're seeing a lot of rise in pitch invasions. Yeah, you are seeing a rise in fights and stuff, even across Europe. Obviously, you're seeing loads
France
of fans.
is really bad.
France, yeah, you're seeing like firework fights in the crowd and stuff like that. Every time I swear I turn on a France game, it's just a cloud of smoke. I don't even see the game. There's been a bit of a.
It seems like since football has come down since lockdown, fans have gone a bit mental. I don't know what it's down to, but in terms of like abusing,
I'd say like a home game, Spurs home games, and there's no real problems.
No, only when like a crazy fan base come like Marseille, you know what I mean? There was a bit carnage in there when Marseille were down. But I think that like there's no need for abuse. Like, yeah, have your friendly banter, even like banter when it oversteps the mark of friendly. If both fans are up for it, then don't mind about it. But when it turns into just like abuse and abusing the other fan base and abusing some of your own fans as well, it's just not on. It's just not on. I mean, you've got to draw the line somewhere. And I take like away fans and home fans should be having banter against each other. But as soon as it steps the mark, it's just too much, and there's no need for it.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a different era, different age, you know, where fans used to, obviously football violence was very, very big back in the day, and fans just, that's what some football fans used to just go for that. They didn't even go for the game. They used to just go and have a scrap. And I think time has moved on from that. You know, so many people enjoy football now. It's such a global thing. Like, I don't think people want to put up with this kind of stuff anymore, of fans getting to that stage. And part of me as well feels like sometimes when fans are really intense and aggressive, it can add a sense of occasion to games and stuff like that. But and that's what can give a football, like, sometimes it's stakes. But I feel like when it oversteps the mark, it ruins everything. It ruins the day. It ruins the occasion completely, and then it overarches whatever's going on.
I don't think there's any problem with like a hostile atmosphere. Like when the Spurs fans were lining the streets from the North London derby, waiting for the Arsenal fans to come in to give a bit of a hostile reception and stuff like that. I've got no problems with that. But whenever it oversteps the mark and gets a bit violent, that's when you really have to draw the line. And in this day and age, even in those days and age when it was all like very rife, it wasn't on, and now it's definitely not on. So I think fans need to move on from that. That's for sure. And last but not least, let's talk about Illan Meslier of Leeds. Obviously, he's a goalkeeper. Phil Hay from The Athletic saying it's quite interesting that Spurs are one of the clubs looking at him, as Lloris is getting into his mid-30s now and he's out of contract in 2024. You would assume that Tottenham would now be looking at his succession, or looking at the succession plan for him. Pretty eventful time for Meslier, but this season he has looked better than he ever has, and he could turn into a top-class goalkeeper.
Yeah, actually, when Messi first came to...
Clowned upon, wasn't he?
Yeah, when he first came to Leeds, I was a bit not sure about him. He was getting very easily beaten at corners. He looked very weak, but he actually has grown up a lot. He's obviously a very young keeper. You got to remember he's in his early 20s, so... That's at that stage, you know, De Gea was all like terrible in his first season for United, but I really think Meslier has matured a lot, and he's grown in stature. He's built himself up a bit. He's a lot stronger now. I do actually think in the way he plays, he's a bit like a young Lloris. He's very cat-like in his goalkeeping, and he could be someone who really develops into a really good class keeper. So I think what would be perfect for me is if we had them at the same time and just had 1 year of Meslier under Lloris, so you can kind of
be a good have him next season.
Yeah, and you can kind of. Then you can kind of
and bed him in the cups and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then he can grow into the role, and then he can finally take over once Lloris is obviously ready to hang up his boots or hang up his gloves or leave or whatever. But I really like Meslier. I think he's really grown on me, and I think he's going to be a top class keeper.
What's he like with his feet? What's he like with playing out from the back?
Much better than Lloris. He's actually pretty decent with his feet. I don't think he's like the level of Edison or Allison or something like that, but he's definitely has a better ability, a bit more composure than Lloris does when he's on the ball.
And he's also a bit taller, isn't he? I mean, Lloris is like 6'2", he's like 6'4". It's like quite tall for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, but there's in a similar way to Lloris, one of the things he has struggled with is set pieces and command of his area. But he does seem to be getting better at it, which is really positive for him. And
as is Lloris.
Yeah, but I just think he's a fairly similar goalkeeper to Lloris in the aspects of how he his reflexes and stuff like that. He's actually quite similar in how he carries himself. So I wonder if he watches a lot of Lloris when he was younger or something. But
yeah, I'm sure he did. I mean, French goalkeeper coming up, 22 years old. I mean, Lloris is probably one of his heroes.
Yeah, you know what I saw last week? You know, Lloris' first ever FIFA card. This is off topic, but Lloris' first ever FIFA card. You know what it was? 86.
His first ever was 86.
Ever FIFA card was 86. How mad is that?
What year was that?
That was like 2008 or something, 2009.
Well, for Leon, obviously.
Yeah.
Wow.
How crazy is that? Just completely off topic, but that's really impressive.
And that was what, like 4 years before we signed him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, no?
Not bad.
Not bad. Just shows his longevity, really. But hopefully Meslier can. I would be very interested in bringing him to Spurs for sure, especially at 22. He's got so many years ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him growing a bit as a keeper at the back end of last season, and I think we had a chat about him in the summer because we were linked to him in the summer again, and I said that, yeah, I would take him as an understudy to Lloris, but I think that he's shown even more this season, and yeah, I definitely think I would like it, and I think that when Lloris signed that contract, you know, it was said in the interview, Lloris said in the interview that he's going to be the one, you know, helping to find that successor, the goalkeeper that can success him. So, and what you're saying about him being very similar to Lloris, it could be a kind of a match made in heaven there, really. So we'll see what happens there. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any thoughts regarding any of the news stories we brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.